Hi everyone, welcome. This will be a short tutorial on your final group project. As you know, you will be working in groups this semester to complete a final presentation using all that you've learned about the visual elements, principles of design, and art history component of the course. So here we are at the course home page, and we're going to go straight to the final project assignment description by clicking on the assignments link. Scroll down the page and click on the final project folder, and there you'll see a description of your final project with the wonderful The Five Senses painting Sight by Jan Bruegel from the 17th century at the top of the description. So what you'll essentially be doing, as you scroll down, you'll see an overview of the assignment, learning outcomes, task description with a list of assigned museums, and a list of directions on the process, how you might go about developing your presentation, and then more information on what the presentation should consist of. And then finally an evaluation, how you'll be evaluated on this final project. So going back to the top, if you're feeling confused about how to go about just developing the content of this presentation, if you're not quite sure where to start, this is a kind of informal guide to help you as you browse your museum's website and select artworks you'd like to include in your presentation. So essentially what you'll be doing is collaborating as a group to select a number of artworks from your assigned museum's collection for presentation in a final project, whether it be using presentation software like PowerPoint or Prezi or another kind of document. You could even use Word to include your images and analysis. So what you'll be doing is using your museum's website, the collection, the permanent collection page of your museum's website, and here are the assigned museums for these presentations: the Art Institute of Chicago, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Louvre Museum in France, the British Museum in London, the Prado Museum in Madrid, Spain, and the State Hermitage Museum in Russia. And you're going to be browsing your assigned museum's collection on your own, and according to what your group has decided in your group's discussion forum, selecting a number of artworks that you'd like to include in your presentation and analyzing these works according to the knowledge you've gained so far about the visual elements and principles of design. Then you're going to present how you might display these works if you were to put them in an actual gallery space. So today I'm going to sort of walk you through a kind of tutorial to help you as you go about selecting artworks, putting them in a presentation, and determining your kind of virtual gallery layout. And these are three important components of your presentation that will be discussed today. So say you are a member of the group number 2 and you're presenting artworks selected from the Metropolitan Museum of Art's collection in New York. So we're going to go ahead and go to that page, and I've already pulled it up here. Here is the Met's website and their collection page, and you see here presented the artwork of the day by Edward Hopper. So you can select that, or you can start digging into the museum's collection in a number of ways, and most of the websites I've provided have different ways of searching their collections. So you can, here at the Met site, you can select you can select by who, whether it be artist's name or region, culture, what, the materials used to make the object, where it's from, where it was made, when it was made, or in the museum by department. So say you're interested in, just to begin, you're interested, let's go to the Where tab. You're interested in ancient Egyptian art. So we're going to select Ancient Egypt. Scroll down the page. There are over 9,000 objects here, so you don't obviously have to look at all of them, but just browse the collection as best you can and select several of interest to you. Post that to your group's discussion board, and then together as a group determine which of these artworks you'd like to present in your presentation. And then you'll each be writing your visual analyses of them to present them. So, for example, I'm interested in this one, the portrait of the boy from the 2nd century CE, the Roman period in Egypt. And you can see here we have a nice sharp reproduction of this painting, as well as identifying information about it, what the title is, where it was made, who made it, and the materials used, and then a description of the object. So say you'd like to include this in your presentation. There are a number of ways of saving it to your desktop or just dragging and dropping it into your presentation. And most of the museums assigned have these features, though all of them might not have such sharp digital reproductions of them. You should still be able to easily save them to your desktop and include them in your PowerPoint or Prezi or Word document. So in this case, I would want to click on this image by pressing the Control key and my mouse here, and I can then save an image to my desktop. Maybe I would title it Egyptian Portrait, and then I can just use the file feature of my PowerPoint to drop that into my presentation, or I could just drag it and drop it to, I can drag it and drop it to my desktop if you're using a Mac, or if not, you can just right click and save to your desktop and then import it in that way. So say you want to select that one and put it in a presentation. So I've already developed a kind of sample project tutorial here. And this is a kind of mock-up of what your project might look like, given, well, minus all the bells and whistles that you might like to add, color, pattern, that sort of thing. Essentially, the meat of the presentation is here. So here's your home page, or your first page, your title page of the presentation. Now you'll want to title it maybe by theme or by group name. Here I've titled it Final Project Tutorial, and I'm using a PowerPoint right now. I've listed the group name, the museum name, and you would also list the individual students' names of those who've contributed artworks to this assignment, or who have contributed in any way to this assignment. So you'll have a title page, and it might be in addition to or separate from your title page, the theme page. So you might want to have a separate page where you introduce the theme of your presentation or of your virtual gallery. And in this case, it may be portraiture. It could also be something else like landscape or love or something to do with the visual elements. And then following that, you would go about including your reproductions of your artworks and the information about them. So in this case, I have the portrait of the boy, and I've given all identifying information about him, which you should do. Always identify as much as you can about your artwork selected, and include the artist's name if available. And then next to the image, you would write your visual analysis of the work. Now in this case, you could describe the use of color, light, texture, and more in this painting, and this should be about 1 to 2 paragraphs or so per artwork. And if you include anything about the historical content, this should be secondary to the analysis of the visual elements and design principles. So the focus is here on the visual content of the work, and maybe short commentary, if any, on how the work exemplifies aspects of, say, ancient Egyptian art as we've discussed it in class. It may or may not, but the focus here is on the visual elements and principles of design. And make sure if you incorporate anything you learned from the museum site in the description of the work, to quote it and or cite it and include a list of references at the end of your presentation. You don't want to accidentally plagiarize. So say you have a list of images, and this one slide would be followed by 10 to 12 other artworks and their visual analyses, depending upon how many people you have in your group. And then you would want to present how you might display these works in a gallery alongside one another. And so this is an image that I've used to do that. You can use any number of images, even a hand-drawn or one that you've drawn on PowerPoint, to show how you might place these works in an actual physical space if you put them in a gallery side by side. So in this case, I've provided a little thumbnail of the portrait of the boy in the center of the space. So it can be hand-drawn and imported. It can be, you can get an image online to do that. Or you can provide a short written description of that. If you're not as savvy, that's fine. If you're super savvy, you may be interested in using any one of the virtual art spaces and or virtual art galleries. And here is one, www.3dvas.com, and there you can create your own virtual art gallery. So that's an option for you, but it's not required. So any number of ways you can design your gallery. Just make sure you do so as a group, and think about how you might, think about these images and how they might look side by side. What kinds of visual elements do you want to draw out of them by pairing them together? Are certain works similar in their use of color or concept? And that might determine how you place them in a space. And then on a final slide, you would discuss how you would, or provide a justification for why you place them in the gallery in that way. Are they visually or thematically similar? And how are they similar? Perhaps one is a three-dimensional sculpture. In that case, you might want to put it in the center of your gallery so that people can walk around it. So make sure you also include a slide about the presentation of these works in a gallery setting. So that's essentially what you'll be doing here in this presentation. If you're wondering then how to select, if you're selected the theme portraiture, and you want to find more portraits, then another feature you can also use on your museum site is the simple search the collections box. And most museum pages have this under their collections page. So in this case, I want to see more portraits in the museum collection. And so I would just put portrait, and I would be taken to the many portraits in the Met's collection, and there are over 7,000 of them. You don't have to look at all of them, but you may want to browse through and select several that interest you, that you feel are similar in some way and that you'd like to see in an exhibition. So there are a number of ways of accessing information about your presentation, or accessing artworks for your presentation, and putting them in a kind of presentation format. This is just one of many ways you could go about that, but this should give you a better idea of what I'm looking for, and how you can work together to create something interesting.